bare necessity, the simple bare necessity, the bare necessity, the simple bare necessity.
Hey there, it's Bre Bear, and today I'm going to be doing an update on the things I have been reading since I last updated you guys, because it's been a while. I hope this will allow you to have been able to see every single book I've read over the course of 2018. However, I could have missed a few throughout the year, so I'm sorry if I did. Hopefully everything is included though. The first two books that I have to show you are ones that I read quite a while back. So let me actually pull up my Goodreads so I can check what my ratings were and hopefully try to remember what it was that I thought about the book, because actually some of these go back to summer. The first book that I've read since I last updated you guys that I'm aware of, I may have talked about it but I don't think I did, and that is A Map for Wrecked Girls by Jessica Taylor. I adored this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely one of my favorite reads of the year. It really reflects the relationship of sisters very well. It centers around these sisters who have been kind of at odds with one another and not really in the best place, and we don't really know what happened that kind of estranged them a little. Well, they end up stranded on an island and with this one other person, and so it's just those three people and they're trying to figure out how to survive and how to deal with this. And it actually, what I really also liked was that it showed the aftermath, what happens after you've been stranded on an island. The next one that I read is Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welsh. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 3-star rating though, and I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I think if I check, it may have been some problematic elements. Yeah, so it looks like there was a couple problematic elements that I found in here, as well as I think maybe the romance could have been funny to me. I can't remember exactly what it was that was that other star, but I know one of them at least was some problematic elements. It centers around this girl who is spending the summer in Tuscany with her father, who she has never met because her mother just passed away. And this lady actually gives her a journal that was her mother's while her mother was in Italy. She starts going through this journal and reading it and learning all these things about her mom and going to all these places that her mom went, and it's really cool. That is my favorite aspect of it, is the journal itself. And it kind of actually inspired me to change up my journaling style a little bit with my just like long form writing about my life journal. It's a really fun travel read, and I probably will read it again just because I do like the concept of it and everything. And honestly, if I was to have read it now instead of then, I may have rated it differently, because, you know, my writing style changes as time goes on. So during that time I also completed 3 audiobooks. I completed Leah on the Offbeat, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Follows this character named Leah. It's a sequel to Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. Leah is one of Simon's best friends. Well, if you're going to read Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, definitely read that first and then read Leah on the Offbeat, or you will have some spoilers. She's an only child. She is a plus-size bisexual main character, but she is kind of in the closet about the bisexual thing. She experiences some rockiness in her friendships throughout the story. Shows a little bit of her struggle internally with dealing with other people. I liked the fact that it kind of showed how flawed she was and the way that she viewed her friendships. A lot of our issues is not necessarily other people doing wrong things to us, it's how we perceive the things that they do as wrong, and she learns and grows a lot through the story, in my opinion. I also read via audiobook Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. The first one I enjoyed pretty good, but it wasn't like overwhelmingly amazing yet until the end. The end is where things started to pick up for me and they got exciting, and I really was interested at that point. That's where I started to feel hooked into the story and wanting to continue to read. 4 out of 5 stars. It follows this kid named Jacob whose grandfather passes away, and he's dealing with some struggles, the loss of his grandfather who he was very close to, who he loved very much, and who always told him these stories based off of these photographs that he had of this orphanage where all of these people had special abilities. He ends up going on this trip and he ends up discovering that these whimsical stories may be true. He actually meets some of the people that were in those photographs. Crazy thing is, these people in those photographs haven't aged. And stranger yet, these people actually have crazy abilities and unique qualities about them that make them peculiar. And then I read Hollow City as well, which is the next book in the series. I listened to that one as well. I'm pretty sure I binged those, so I listened to them back to back. Unfortunately, I don't have my rating on here. I was getting a little tired of the series at this point. I needed something else, something fresh and something different. So I know that if I listened to it maybe a little bit further away from when I listened to the first one, like left a little bit of space of time in between, then I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more than I did. Ending again really picked up, really brought some intensity into the situation, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? All of those books that I have already kind of mentioned were ones that were kind of scattered throughout other things that I read that I did talk about through those vlogs. Otherwise, everything else is going to be in sequential order. Via audiobook, I did review, like refresh my memory on everything A Throne of Glass up until Empire of Storms, which is the one I'm on currently, but I didn't mark them as having reread them. I don't know why, I just felt like I didn't need to. I don't know, I can't explain myself to you sometimes. All I know is that I'm not really counting any of the audiobooks for that reason. Alright, so next we have Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi, and I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. At the beginning, I was enjoying it, I was into it, and then I kind of like, there was a point in the middle of it where I started to kind of hate it, and I was like, I'm gonna give this a 2. The beginning, it was more of like a 4, and so it broke in the middle. At the end, it started to pick up a little bit better, so I kind of split it in the middle and went at a 3. I don't know what happened there in the middle. I may have just gotten tired of the story. I may have needed to read it faster. I have a love-hate relationship with the concept of this book. It follows this girl named Penny, and she just went to college and everything, met this guy, she ran into him, she met this guy named Sam, and they start to text back and forth and sort of build this relationship, which is something that does happen honestly in real life very often today. People will communicate more through text than they do in real face-to-face conversation. Sam, the guy that she ran into, he works at the cafe. Maybe it was like stepbrother for a little while, and then their parents split back up. I don't remember exactly. Connected to in some way Penny's roommate, and so Penny feels like she can't be open about the fact that she's into Sam or whatever. I may read it again and see if my thoughts are different or improved on it. There were some problematic elements in this one. It felt kind of like draggy at some points, I feel like. After that was Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer, which you did see me mention, I believe, at some point. Maybe I thought I mentioned it, I don't know. But you will be seeing a video fully on this. I just haven't been able to do it. I'm planning on doing that in the next couple of weeks. If you don't know anything about the Twilight series, basically it's about a girl who falls in love with a vampire. And this werewolf falls in love with her, and it's a really confusing triangle. That's pretty much all you need to know. The next book we have is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I read this and rated it a 5 out of 5 stars. It is super whimsical. It's very atmospheric. I wanted to read it in fall because it seemed like the perfect kind of fall vibes, and I really am glad that I did. It was perfect. I wish that there had been a little bit more twisting in the plot. It is about this circus that just appears in the middle of the night without any warning whatsoever. In a few days' time, it just disappears in the middle of the night and it's gone. Everything is black and white in it. Le Cirque du Rêve, the Circus of Dreams, and it's so magical. This circus is only open at night, but behind the scenes, it's actually the stage for this grand competition that's occurring between these two magicians that they were forced into from a very young age. The crazy thing about it is they have no idea why they're in this competition, what purpose it serves, or how it works. They learn nothing about how the game is supposed to work. They have to figure out for themselves how to even make a move in the game. And Furthermore, they have no idea how the game ends. So next we have The Hazel Wood by Melissa Albert. And I did enjoy this. I think I would give it like a 3.5 to 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely a lot darker than I thought it would be for the writing style. The writing style feels very young, but the concept actually is pretty dark. It follows this girl named Alice, and she and her mother have been on the run their whole life, running from the bad luck that constantly is following Alice. So they get a letter that says that her grandmother has passed away. Her grandmother is actually this famous authoress that wrote all these short stories, and she lives at a place called the Hazel Wood. What happens is her mother goes missing, and Alice has no idea what to do. The being that has stolen her mother away is actually claiming to be a supernatural being from the stories that her grandmother wrote about. She gets one message from her mother before her mother has disappeared, and that is to stay away from the Hazel Wood. But with her mother gone, she doesn't know where to look for clues. So the only thing she can do is go to the Hazel Wood. The next book that I completed was It by Stephen King. This took me a million years to read because I was so busy during the time I was trying to read it. I was so sad. I wanted to read it much faster than I did. It was very unfortunate, but I got through it. It did feel a little repetitive at times. That is one thing that I experienced, was it felt repetitive. Another thing I experienced was that it was hard to remember who was who because we were being introduced so many characters at once. In this town called Derry, and it starts out following this little boy named George who is very close to his brother Bill. George is running with this little boat, this little toy boat that his brother made, playing with it out in the rain. He has this little yellow slicker on, and then the boat goes into the drain. He goes and he looks down into the drain because he's like 6, so he doesn't know any better. He hears this voice and it starts talking to him. The voice tries to give him a balloon. Then he sees this clown. The clown is named Pennywise. Then Pennywise kills George. The story follows Bill, George's brother, who seeks revenge, and Bill's friends who have also experienced fear and want to avenge their fears, their experiences, their other kids that have been killed by Pennywise, etc. Do this thing to make it go away. Made a promise that if it ever came back, they would all come back and fight it again. They have gone and lived their own lives and all forgotten what has happened, but one of them stayed. The one that stayed called them all back, and so they're going through their memories of what happened in the past, and we're watching that story unfold of what happened that started everything. And then we're also watching the story of them coming back to Derry to end what they started 20-something years ago. I think if I reread it, I would enjoy it more. I may enjoy this more via audiobook. It might be a little bit more spooky for me that way. So the next book that I read was Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare. My goal at this point was I wanted to try to finish my rereading for the Cassandra Clare books to be able to get to Queen of Air and Darkness before the end of the year, but that did not happen. I didn't get as much time to read as I would have liked, but I did get through another one. And of course, 5 out of 5 stars. If you haven't read any of the Mortal Instruments or the Infernal Devices or any of that, I highly recommend that you read them. Very, very, very. I also read the graphic novel version of Clockwork Prince as well. And the last book that I read during the year was We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, and I actually really, really enjoyed this book. It was super good, but probably like a 4.5 or a 5. Maureen disappeared off the face of the earth from California and just went ahead and headed to New York, where she was going to be going to school because of what happened with her grandfather when he passed away. We don't really know exactly why that was her reaction in her grief and why that was what she did. She was in the police station. She literally just left out the back. and there were people that were there for her, and she just kind of left without, you know, saying a word. And they had no idea where she was. They tried to get in touch with her. She didn't respond. She was staying on campus during her winter break, and her best friend actually came to visit her and stay with her for 3 days. I really enjoyed it. So at this point, I hadn't been able to finish my reading goal for the year, and I was gonna read some other little books, but I had to go to work that day and I had some plans for that evening on the 31st. So I crammed it all into some Magic Tree House rereads. Mummies in the Morning, which follows Jack and Annie going to ancient Egypt. Pirates Past Noon, where they dive into Pirates of the Caribbean. This is the one where they meet Morgan Le Fay. This one, Morgan Le Fay has been put under a spell and they have to find 4 magical objects to save her. They have to find the 4 objects for the spell so they can save her. And so they end up going to Japan, ancient Japan, go to the Amazon in the afternoon of the Amazon, and they are continuing their search for those objects here. Have Sunset of Sabretooth, they go into the Ice Age and they are continuing their search. I finished off with Midnight on the Moon, where they search. This one actually takes place in the future, which is pretty cool. So that catches you up with all of the books I've been reading physically. On audiobook, I'm in the middle of Empire of Storms, and then I am physically reading Eliza and Her Monsters, which I am enjoying. Both of those I am enjoying. I am trying to decide if I'm going to do a best and worst of 2018 reads video, or 2 videos like I did last year. If I don't, it'll probably be because I enjoyed so many of the books that I read this year. There were so many amazing books. I am looking forward to another amazing reading year. I'm going to have to reorganize my shelf because of how many to-be-read books I currently own, because I have a problem. And so I'm gonna need some more space up here, and I could use some more bookshelves. I hope you guys had an amazing year, an amazing start to your 2019, and I will see you guys very soon with more content. I will have more videos coming out soon. I'm gonna have some videos. I'm gonna have a video about goals coming out. I'm gonna have a video, a book haul about what I got over the holiday and over my vacation, and then my eclipse video will be coming out. Maybe some other New Year's related videos. If you guys want to see that, let me know. Thumbs up the video, comment, all that good stuff. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do that. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out, Bear Scouts.
Bare necessities, but simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your stress. I mean bare necessities. That's why a bear can rest at ease with just the bare necessities of life. Yeah, with just the bare necessities of life. Yeah, man.